Hi, so this is Dr. Yunhan Kim. I'm an expert in integrative medicine, functional medicine, and I'm trying to figure out when is a good time for us to do live on Saturday. I think the 10:30 might be better than 8 o'clock. I think that we didn't have as good show, and I also got away from doing Facebook, and I'm thinking that it would be a good idea for me to come back and do that. Some people thought that maybe doing it later is better, but the later is a problem for folks in Europe. So I'm like, even I think 11 o'clock is a little harder for people. So let me go ahead and save it, and then I'll just wait. If people come in, then I will do my live. If not, I will just, I'm trying to study what works, what doesn't work. And I see from one of the groups that this is one of the few groups that is left in Facebook. Facebook has been shutting down groups for reasons. Yeah, and we're very grateful for Brian, and we're grateful for all the people from LDN Research Trust to make this going. And I'm grateful for our group, the LDN support group, with Jill, and especially Jill and Charlie, and Tori. All of them are really all fantastic people, and very generous with their time and efforts. So I'll probably stay on for 15 minutes and see and test and do surprise appearances and see what would work best for a Facebook group. I think that it's good to have both. So I think that's what I think. And then up here, please write all your questions. It looks like the Facebook still is quite popular, and they have power, and the tools that they give it also very, very comprehensive. So I think that's really, really great. So the questions are like, how long does it take to, yeah, I think the LDN has to be, it has to be individualized. And when I see people saying what's what, I'm a little surprised, because things are not that simple, but people expect it to be that simple, and that's unfortunate that people think that things should be as simple as they should be, but it's not that simple. So and it looks like there are 3 people now. If you have any questions about LDN, this is Dr. Yunhan Kim. I'm an expert in LDN as well as integrative and functional medicine. If you want to comment, use the comment. You can ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. This morning, I had a session in school, and the topic that came up, actually, that's coming out a lot, is, are there tools with LDN that work well with LDN to complement LDN? And one of the things that we talked about was the use of methylene blue. Oftentimes I use methylene blue alongside with LDN, and that can have some good results. And LDN, as everyone probably is aware, that that with, LDN and methylene blue do different things, but they seem to be complementing each other. And the reason for that is that LDN, as you are already aware, is an immune modulator, and LDN is also helpful for reducing inflammation, especially inflammation in the nervous system and immune system. And LDN also appears to be neuroprotective, and so those are the reasons I use LDN. And if many of the illnesses are modulated or controlled by inflammation, and LDN can modulate that or regulate that in a positive manner, so that's helpful. And methylene blue may not be as potent for that purpose, but methylene blue is excellent for refreshing the mitochondria. As we get older, I think the mitochondria gets older with us. And then the other part about the LDN or methylene blue is that it, at the higher doses, it can be helpful for serotonin support. And then the last part of that is that it can also be very helpful for antimicrobial purposes. So for the serotonin support, one potentially dangerous thing is that methylene blue is capable of creating problems. If you're taking SSRI, that will be your newer antidepressant, MOA inhibitors. Those would be monoamine inhibitors, and those are older medications, and some of them maybe even. And then the last would be that if you're using it oral versus IV, and the dosing all make a big difference. And I think you should be under a care of a licensed provider who knows a lot about it. So is it safe to take a thyroid hormone and LDN? I think so. Is it safe to take LDN with estrogen? As a matter of fact, I think that a lot of people who take LDN for chronic fatigue and what they call myalgic encephalitis, and I think that it's critical that you have a more of a comprehensive role, and I call it the shine perspective. And shine means first you need to help people to sleep, optimize their sleep, and then after that, and I'll put that right here, it's an article. IFM Synergy is my blog where I cover a lot of different things, including LDN related, root cause medicine related, integrative medicine related, functional medicine related. So and I think the big part of that is that you look at the sleep, you have to look at hormone, you have to look at hidden infection, you have to look at nutrition status and autoimmune and other endocrinology related issues. So, and I've used LDN for those purposes. For your purposes, you need to talk to your doctor. I'm unable to give medical advice to non-patient, and now Facebook really hates that. So we will be compliant with Facebook. So ask your doctor. In my practice, I've not encountered problems. Another person says, I'm not getting any relief from nerve pain. I have on the neck. I took a break. I may have low endorphin. I've been taking it for 2 weeks. I was going to titrate it up. So here's what I think is that here's a clear example of someone who needs someone's guidance with LDN expertise. And I know I can't help everyone, and my business plan and business structure does not allow that, and because I want to have just 99 active members, and not everyone is in Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Georgia, Florida, or Texas. And I operate out of states that I am licensed out of, and I don't operate anywhere else. If you're in another country, you can purchase my time, but not as a physician, because I'm not licensed in another country. Now, if you're in another state, I can't even do that because that is considered not appropriate. So nerve pain and LDN, I think that in my practice, nerve pain or neuropathy of different styles and LDN are excellent candidates, and I get very consistent results with LDN, and I'll post my video that you can look at for that. The caveat I share with my patient is that the treatment of LDN and neuropathy, there is a little bit of nuance that you have to know, and that's when I think an experienced provider or doctor can be really helpful, because most 90% of problem that I see is dosing issues, inappropriate dosing, inappropriate increase of dosing, and underdosing when they should be hitting the doses. So those are things where the working with an expert physician is helpful. But in general, neuropathy is something that gets treated very well with it. And I have many people who used to be taking opioids, and they no longer require opioids for their. So that's, I think that's another thing that really it's not it works really well, and I feel it just breaks my heart that because of the lack of knowledge that people cannot be helped by and in Facebook there's a lot of control, and our group, our LDN support group in Facebook we got in trouble twice, and fortunately the leadership came together and decided to just shut the CIS group down for about a month, and that reset the issues. And now we have pretty much draconian measures. If people don't agree with the rules, they can't be our member of our group. If they violate the rules, we don't give them second chances. We used to give them like 3 chances. We don't anymore, because we already got in trouble with Facebook twice. Third time will be out. So our threshold is very low to just remove people, ban people from joining us again. So I am in. My practice is not maxed out, but I do operate out of Illinois, and you can check out my website if you want to. It's just that I don't want to have more than 99 active patients, because I can't help people. A lot of people that I have, I have to check in with them weekly, and even more often. And what I can say is that last group of people, all 100% of the people that engaged with me for last month, they're all doing fantastic, and they have different issues. They have neuropathy, they have MCAS, and they're all doing fantastic. And that's what I want my practice to be. I want patients to get better in my practice, because people who have these conditions, they can go to 10, 20, 30 Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and unless they meet someone like me who likes digging and who likes complex puzzles, and most of all likes to get people get better, I don't think they can match. Not because I'm smarter than them, or they're not smart as me. No, they're not as committed as I am. I'm committed to the point of creating a structure of business where I can really focus, and if I need to, I can connect with them several times a week if that is needed. Now, fortunately, I don't have that issue, because people get better usually, or they can't work with me because there are some people who say, okay, I know everything, I'm so smart, I'm smarter than you, but I just need you to write a prescription for me. And if I have worked with people for a long time, I don't mind doing that, because I trust them. But if new people say that I know more than you and you just write me prescription, that just doesn't work very well for me. So do I have availability? Yeah, if the person is the right person, 2 new patients per month is accepted at this time. The number may change depending on overall census, but I tend to be fortunate that if we are well aligned, well matched, right now I'm having very high rate of success. And part of that, I think, is that I don't accept everyone. If I don't think they're good match, I turn people down, because I gave you an example. If the people said, I want to do it my way, and I just need you to write prescriptions the way I want you to write them, that those people don't work very well. So I have to look up the medication, because I don't think that's what we call it in the US. The medications have 2 names. One is a trade name, and then the other one is a generic name. So, and then I will be looking that up, because it's Codamol, and I'm not familiar with Codamol in the US, but it says basically it's apparent. It's basically, I think we have equivalent is Vicodin in the US, and basically it's a combination of acetaminophen, or if you're out of the US, some places have another name, paracetamol and codeine. And it's basically in the US, I think we call it Vicodin, or Tylenol with Tylenol 4 with codeine, or Vicodin may have something else. So the issue that I have is this, and this is where a lot of mistakes happen, is that doses are, it's very simple doses you want to start with. If you're on opioid, it's not a problem, but this is one place that dosing is critical, and people have all kinds of different wording for it, and I've written an article on this topic, and let me see if I can find it, because I turned my website upside down, and the bad part about that is that I have lost some access, but here it is. And this article is when I was at the University of Kansas, integrative medicine, functional medicine director. Wherever I go, I try to get a team together and we write and publish. And this article talks about that, and the article, the name of this article is Treating Chronic Pain with LDN and Ultra Low Dose Naltrexone. And I think that people like to use the name ultra low dose naltrexone, and in reality, it's just easier to say LDN and the dose, because everyone has their own definition. So read it, and then this talks about how to deal with that, or find a doctor like me who knows what they're. I use this all the time to help people on opioid. My latest person no longer needs opioid. Maybe once a month he says he needs opioid. So Lyme. So I have to say this: the person who posted about Lyme, I am sorry you're in this situation. I think Lyme disease, in my opinion, may be like a revenge from Earth, or other possibilities, including weaponization of Lyme. And I know that's not a popular view, and I'm not saying that is the case, but what I'm saying is that the Lyme is very difficult to treat. So for Lyme symptoms or Lyme disease or tick-borne illnesses, I like that much better. I think there needs to be a very comprehensive approach to doing things. And what I just said is not proven. There's no proof of either, but what I can say is that Lyme is very, very common, and exposure of Lyme is estimated up to 60 to 70%. And most of the Lyme that people have is not initial infection, but reactivation. And I think the spreading of Lyme may be more than ticks. I know that sexually it's possible to give and receive Lyme. I think that there was a study that I read about ant being able to carry Lyme, because what happens is that the ant will catch a tick and eat it, and then it gets infected, and then it give it to each other. And I'm wondering if there's other kinds of bugs that Lyme can be spread. So the question is Lyme symptoms. I think LDN is one of the tools that I use, because the Lyme, it's not easy to treat Lyme. So in the beginning, if they're in the very, very beginning, treat them with an antibiotic for 30 days, they say. I have a different view. I use lower dose for longer, up to 3 to 6 months, even if it's the first time. And the reason for that is that that's the only window we have almost 100% possibility of cure. It used to be that way. Now, I'm not even sure, because I think the bacteria is very resistant these days. So for Lyme symptoms, I think if you treat Lyme symptom, you will never get ahead of it. You have to treat the root cause, which is infection. And it's really hard, because the diagnosis of Lyme is really notoriously not easy. Diagnosis of Lyme, confident diagnosis, is several $1,000s, up to I think $4,000 or so if you go with IGeneX like Profile 6. And they're cheaper ones, and I'm not sure how useful they are. And a lot of times people forget that Lyme is a clinical diagnosis. There was a time I believed in CDC. Now I'm selectively believing what CDC says. but Lyme is not one of them. I don't believe CDC classification of 5 bands is positive. I think Lyme is a clinical illness, and therefore it has to be a clinical diagnosis, and that means that you have to understand it. You have to look at the history and the clinical picture and possibility. So the symptom, I think that, and the inflammation causing anxiety, it's true. I think that there's also Herxheimer reaction in Lyme, which basically the bacteria is hitting back using the immune system to punish the host for trying to clear the infection. And it's one of the most difficult conditions and needs a supervision of someone who understands Lyme. And I have to say that it's a very worthy adversary. In some ways, I think treating cancer integrative oncology is easier than treating Lyme effectively. And it has to be individualized for everyone, because the reason for that is that Lyme uses a mast cell activation syndrome as a defense. And the Herxheimer reaction as a defense. And I haven't seen Herxheimer reaction that's exactly the same. All I can say is that at minimum, it's very uncomfortable. At maximum, you feel like you're going to die. So a malaise or very, very, very severe malaise would be a better medical way of saying it, profound malaise. So yeah, I think if we have 70% of people already been exposed to Lyme, I think mosquito carrying Lyme is what I suspect, but again, not proven. And let's see if that's what that says. But I do know that of cases that people who have not traveled to areas of malaria, they get malaria because there are enough people from those areas that have been exposed, or they are infected with it. And they're saying that CDC says that that's not true. But like I said, I am not sure I can believe 100% CDC or any organization can say. And I will stick to my gun saying that Lyme is a very complex issue, and that comprehensive understanding and testing and the diagnosis is a clinical diagnosis, not necessarily just follow the CDC. And that makes everything easy. But according to that criteria, I've never seen a Lyme. Now, when I understood better, then I'm and it's a little tricky because I'm still licensed as a physician. I still have to follow the rules, and all other doctors look at CDC as word of God. So it has to be really difficult. So I think you're under a care of a functional medicine provider, physician, and you're taking ozone plus herbs. And I hope you're using or have used something like Cowden protocol, but there are many protocols, and I myself don't always use Cowden protocol. What I can say is that if you don't change your approach, Lyme will get used to it. Maybe not ozone, but other things. So the reason why I like LDN for Lyme disease is that it modulates the immune system, and part of what these guys can do is they're very slow growing, which means that the immune system response is very slowed down, and that's why I am electing to treat with first antibiotic for 3 to 6 months rather than 1 month, and at a lower dose, because I think you can't really eradicate it. So the best way is make it miserable so that it doesn't activate. So that's my strategy. And the other thing is that I usually like to have 3 things that are anti-Lyme or tick-borne illnesses to make it difficult. I think that LDN can be one of those things that is, for me, it's a cornerstone. Other people, I think that depending on their training and their background, maybe they do the ILAD approach, which I don't use one approach. I'm not treating ILAD patients. I'm treating my patient. So everything has to be individualized and has to make sense to my patients, and they have to respond. And no one response works for everyone. So yeah, let me give you. Dr. Cowden found out that a lot of the protocols that fail. So they created a protocol, and it's an excellent protocol, I think. But no protocol works. I like the Cardone protocol because it's intrinsic. It knows that you have to rotate the tools. You can't just do one tool, and I think that's one of the side effects that I do see with folks that just use a protocol. And I had a patient that I had to use a Horowitz protocol, which was considered the gold standard, triple antibiotics, but people failed it. And this person had to use the Horowitz protocol 3 times, Cardone protocol 3 times, and then it got better. And the key to the Cardone protocol, like I said, is the rotating herbals that makes sense. And I rather like their approach. They got detox built in, they have immune stimulation built in, immune modulation built in, and they have rotating herbs that understand that spirochetes need to be kept on its toes. Well, I hope this is helpful. I think you are the only person listening now. Everyone has dropped off. So if you have more questions, I can try to answer more questions, or if you're done, then we will end the live. I'm waiting and waiting. And thank you so much. Have a great Saturday. This was actually impromptu and just kind of reinforces what I've been thinking, that 10:30 is a better time than 8 o'clock. So if you have more questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I will sign off, and then wishing you everyone a great Saturday. Thank you.